Hello, hello. Jenny Bowling here with Pivot to Prosperity, the podcast brought to you by Pivotal Real Estate Investments. And today we are interviewing Miss Yukiko Nakayama. And I hope I did say that correctly.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for coming. Appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
I am going to read your bio and then let you talk about what isn't in the bio that is of import to you.
Sure.
Um, Miss Yukiko Nakayama is a real estate developer focusing on real estate residential development for 14 years. She manages acquisitions, financial analyses, project management, marketing, and financing. Prior to her real estate career, she worked as a marketing consultant to multinational companies, including Samsung and Fujitsu. She also worked at KPMG Consulting, working on various IT projects with both domestic and international work. In her spare time, she enjoys scuba diving, water rafting, and swimming. She is originally from Japan and lives with her husband and her daughter. All right.
Thank you.
So we talked a little before coming on the recording, and you had some challenging positions way long ago before telecommuting was a thing, right?
Yes, it was very hard commuting. I live in a very north part of San Francisco Bay Area. Live in a town called Pleasant Hill, close to Walnut Creek, and I have to commute long hours to San Jose, where my companies are located. So it was hell to commute back and forth, and then sometimes I got accident hit you know, like some cars, like crash into me from the back because it's so many traffic, and I was kind of like stressed out all the time. So
You were commuting by driving?
yes, and then do you know what? It's kind of funny. Like,
And you were in
um,
Washington, D.C.?
oh no, I was actually at the times commuting in San Francisco Bay Area, but towards the end of my career, when I start working for Sony Group companies, I commute from Washington D.C. to San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. That was the days when it wasn't that common. Were you flying though when you were going cross country? Were you flying?
Yes, I was flying
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Right.
No
I
problem.
was like, what? 'Cause I used to work for Florida Power and Light, and I would go to a hotel for the week and only come home on weekends. Is that what you did?
So I did like a 2 weeks and 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
and 2 weeks living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then 2 weeks in DC area. But jet, like kind of time difference, 3 hours difference, kind of get to me every 2 years, 2 weeks. I have to kind of adjust
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So
You have the 3-hour time change too to deal with.
right. So
Yeah.
it's
And so
kind of
you got
messed up.
into multiple car accidents?
Well, it's not that bad, but it's just kind of stressful. You know what I mean? Whenever some people rear end, some, other traffic accident when you're driving almost daily, it's kind of just stress me out.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you never know the next time, someone's crash me, and then, that might be the end.
I
So
used to commute also when I worked for the Department of Transportation. I was driving over an hour each way and I would see the cars that flipped. I was like, my number will be up someday if I keep this up. I've got to stop.
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of, especially in California, it gets crazy.
right. Yeah.
Anyways, so you are transitioning, you told me. So you are starting to go towards self-storage. Is that right?
Yes. So I think the self-storage is very recession-resistant asset class. So when economy is good, people buy more stuff, so they need some storage. So I think it's good for when, economy is good. And then when the economy is, getting worse, then they still need to move somewhere to get another job or downsizing. So you need a storage. So I think it's very good for recession resistant.
Yes, exactly. Inflation resistant. It's very, and not only because people need it in good times and bad, but the terms are 1 year or less, so you can up or decrease the rent quick enough to keep it full enough too.
Yeah,
It's very flexible. It's kinda like mobile home parks,
right.
and
And
so
that's exactly right. You can change the rate more dynamically than, say residential 1 year lease. You know what I mean?
yes, yes, I like self-storage for the same reason, yes. And as we know, there's been a lot of them popping up here and there because there's a lot of people doing syndications like we do.
Right.
And, so but they can be joint ventures and other types of formations, but you want to specialize in a certain kind, I believe you said, right?
So I think the smaller facility you can, essentially can do by yourself if you have some, funding source, or you can do joint ventures. And then if it's bigger deals, then you can do syndications. And then many of the deals right now you are seeing a self-storage, actually, they are more willing to do the also seller financing. I think you see more seller financing in self-storage than, say, multifamily, I believe.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. But also you have a development degree, right, from college? And
Yes.
so you'd mentioned to me before we started recording that you like the concept, if possible, to get the ones that have expansion potential, right?
Right. So the self-storage, like I was shocked to learn, like you can build extra 10,000 new additions by couple weeks,
Yeah.
the couple
Yeah.
weeks. I don't think you can do it with marriage family. Even you have a parking lot, you have to start from like maybe rezoning or anything like that. Even if it's a potential, but the self storage, if you have a extra land, it's easier to get probably permit if they allowed, and then to build it's kind of like much faster and easier and cheaper to build.
Very good. Well, so and you live in DC, Washington, DC, well, in Ashburn, actually.
I live in Virginia, close to Washington D.C. And we do have a marriage families portfolio in Washington D.C. Currently, we are doing value add.
Okay. And I didn't think to ask you this. How many units do you have now?
So those are about a total 19 unit in Washington D.C. area. Those are
Okay.
smaller apartment building, but it's mostly in a value add, stage, so that we are significantly, rehabbing or changing the layout, something like that, drastically changing, kind of, revenue, rent growth, and then it's a mix of the rent.
And are these in downtown DC proper? Are they like the older places, the row type apartments, or what are they?
So some of them are just apartment building, like
Okay.
just built as apartment building. And of course, as you know, like in DC, there's some low house style apartment building. We have those as well.
Ah,
So it's kind of like a sweet spot. So even, the apartment building, the maintenance cost is like a house. Do you know what I mean? When
yeah.
you do the roof, you don't pay the commercial contractor price for the roof. You know what I mean? It's like you can kind of get the residential roof contractor to come, and then they they just charge you like a regular roof construction fee, and then you don't have a big parking like other bigger unit. So I think it's a sweet spot to have those row house style apartment building, and then be able to collect, apartment size rent for those unit.
Yeah, I would think. I never got into buying those. As I shared with you, I used to live up that way too, and um, I commend you for getting those. They're not easy to get, I bet.
Yeah, it's really not easy to get. So I think you kind of have to have some house in the market and the connection to get the very best deal.
Right, right. Well, that's great. But so now the pivot to the self-storage, are you looking in any particular markets?
So I'm looking right now in the North Carolina, South Carolina, and then maybe Tennessee and Georgia. We try to avoid like some area that the insurance might be very high, like Florida or Texas. We kind of, if it's really good deals, of course we're gonna take a look at it. In general, we kind of avoid the area where the insurance might be high. And then, of course, I think the property tax increase, we are also watching those area. The property tax went up very high, then we try to avoid those area too. So we kind of come down to close to Washington D.C. area, but trying to avoid those pitfall. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Well, so and you've had your company, Puma Investments, for like 16 years now, right?
Right. Yes,
Yeah, that's a long time.
that's a
You've
lot, really long time.
yeah,
We kind of pivot so many times. Like initially, we just gonna do that small rentals and then collect $200 a month or something like that. That was my plan. And then we got the mentors, and then my mentor was kind of go go go. You need to do the more active rehab and everything. And then I didn't even know how to change the toilet or anything, so they kind of like guide me to do complete A to Z for the rehab project. So we had to start doing the single family flip and then everything, like a kind of, um, anytimes you get the rehab project, we kind of jump on it, start doing. But after we are doing like so many rehab, kind of get tired and then, okay, maybe we should do more high profit, small number of the project. So that's why I got in pivot to the condo conversion, because it's higher profit with less number of project. But we realized there's some other set of problem issue with condo conversions. And
yes.
then we pivot to the small apartment building with value add, which less, intensive, you know, um, rehab wise, but it's take a little bit longer to complete those projects. So
And it depends on how much you decide you want to do. You told me you were changing layouts on those, so that's a big change. That's that's
that's a
that's
big,
not going to be a cosmetic
yeah,
thing.
that's a big change. Um, it's take really long times, and then um, I think it's just like you really have to know the market. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
much rent can be, how much the renovation gonna be, and then the construction can be challenged. So it's really up to like you really know the market very well, and then you really know the construction project management aspect, and
Do you have
then
special contractors that you use, or they related to the business?
so we do have a contractor connections. So I have rely on those contractor to complete those project.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
vital to keeping because you have to keep going quickly because
Yeah.
time is money, right?
Right, right. Yeah. I think it's very hard to find those contractor who can, do on times, on budget, but I was able to manage those type of the project so far.
That's great. Yeah, that's a challenge. And so for self-storage, some of those contractors are able to do that switch, but some aren't. Um, you'll be probably well, you probably already have some new connections on that now. You've been planning to do the pivot for a couple years, I believe you said, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We start pivoting like a 2020 and then start attending so many conference. I lost count of the self-storage conference I attend, and then I usually kind of go all the vendors tables and then get to know them and get all the business card, and then check prices and then their capabilities, and then which geographic region they covers and stuff like that.
That's really good. Yeah, those conferences are invaluable to be able to get everybody in one room that cares enough to be there. Then
Mhm.
they probably have the fortitude to do their job and see it through, because so many
Right,
little contractors couldn't participate in those because they're living paycheck to paycheck, and you
right,
don't want
yeah.
one of those as a contractor on a commercial job.
No. And then also like a reputation among the peers, very important to me. Sometimes you see some people like, oh, you get award from XYZ or some industry award, but I really don't care. I want to see how the peer review of the companies. If someone said, oh, that's property management is good, and then I hear like maybe 3 or 5 people, other people in the peer in the industry say, oh, that company is very good, then I will really listen to them instead of, like some companies very, much advertising and, getting award or whatever. So I don't really care. I really need to hear the peer review for the company that I want to work with.
That's worth its weight in gold, as we know. We both pay extra money to belong to these masterminds that really help us to find the best of the best.
Right.
And it costs a lot of money, but it sure is worth it, isn't it? A lot
Yes,
of
it
money.
does.
Just
A
like
lot
all
of
these
money.
conferences we go to.
I know it's just too many conference, but I think it's worth the gold when you
Yeah.
get
Oh, yeah.
those
I think I
informations.
figured my average conference is 2,500 to 3,000. If
Hmm.
it's not in Orlando,
Yep.
I just got to
Yeah.
figure 2,500 to 3,000 if it's multi-day.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And then you have to pay for traveling and airfares and hotels, and then
Yeah. Well, that's all of it. Hopefully, it depends. Now, I haven't been to a couple of the big, expensive ones. I guess there's some really big. I haven't been to Tony Robbins. Have you ever been to a
oh
Tony Robbins?
no, I have my eye on it, but I was planning to maybe attend with my daughter.
Are those $10,000 a piece?
I don't know. I think there might be one like a kind of more reasonable cost one that, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
m-
they're much more expensive, but most of the conferences that I go to, though, cost from 900 to 2,000, twenty five
mhm,
hundred, just to sign up, and then you got all
mhm.
the travel on top. So, but I've averaged 3,000, actually. I'm trying to cut it to 20. I've gotten some at 2,500, but yeah, it's like, yeah.
Mhm.
And then when you do
That-
10 of those a year,
mhm. Oh my goodness. I know.
I know it's a lot.
I
Yeah.
know.
So tell us what else you would like your investors to know, because are your people that have done the residential also looking to go into the storage, or are you looking for all new investors at this point?
I think I'm looking for someone who really kind of want to pursue the commercial side. I think there's some people from residential side to shift to the commercial side, but I'm kind of looking for the investor who committed to the commercial project. And then, when you do the commercial project, I think you have some other asset class like retails, office, self-storage and multi-families. At this time, I'm focusing really on the self-storage, but, for as a LP, I actually invest in an office building, which performing, beautifully. So I had other, the asset class that I like, as a passive investor, but as an active, I'm specifically looking for self storage and then people interested in the asset class.
Okay. And also, what we were talking about was, I asked you what your mission is, what you want to do for your bringing other people in. How do you look at that?
So for the other people to bring in, I think like when we get to the like some mid to large scale self-storage, we will probably can provide opportunity to invest with us as a passive investor for those type of project. We look at many deals and then we are very conservative. So maybe not so many opportunity, but when we had the opportunity to comes, we like to provide opportunity for people who want to invest in a commercial project to, give the opportunity to invest with us.
So, as you say that, that's kind of my situation too. I don't have a lot of deal flow because I'm very conservative and picky. So I wonder if we should call ourselves boutique.
Boutique, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe we are boutique. I don't know.
Yeah, it's we are not like clunking machines and then trying to go like a race car and then go to the top
Right.
or anything. We just want to provide very conservative, maybe too boring, like a self storage is not really sexy, but reliable and then
Yeah.
cash flows, provide some returns.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of investment I'm looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Although I do try to jazz it up somehow,
That's
things
nice.
to market it or something to make it so that the people want to live there. And so
Right,
that,
right, of
yeah, it's
course.
community. Yeah.
Right, yeah, of course, of course. Every time I see the commercial new marriage families openings, like nice office, nice leasing, like a pet cleaning stations or whatever. I'm
Right.
like, oh, it's so beautiful. I want to live here.
Yes. There's some really nice
Yeah,
ones.
very,
Yes,
very
there
nice one.
I do like other things too. I'm multifamily, but I also like I told you self-storage and several others since I've been involved in many types of commercial over my years. But um so I also want to respect your time. I've got a question I ask everybody at the end of these interviews. And so tell us, is there a pivotal person or event that brought you to where you are today or to where you want to be?
So the pivotal event is I got the invitation to attend like a workshop for the real estate when I was still working for um, the IT company, like high tech companies, and then one day I was completely brainwashed and then interested in the real estate. And then I start, checking the book and everything. So it's just like a one postcard, you know, you just have to be very curious and then open-minded for the opportunity that, maybe not real estate investment for you, but something else. You just have to be open-minded and then curious for your potential, I think.
So I'm curious why you say brainwashed. You mean it just changed your brain totally? It changed your thinking?
Yeah, change my thinking. I think before that I was kind of skeptical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every time like some real estate guru pitching something, I was like, what does? This is probably fraud, they're just gonna steal your money. And then I wasn't kind of like didn't want to listen to something, but I think the postcard kind of came. Okay, I do have some times on the weekend, and then why not? It was free, so I just went there, and then it's just kind of changed perspective, and then thought, oh, this is kind of legit, and then I can do this maybe. That's kind of like a
Gotcha. So
you know
it
sh-
sounds to me like you're describing a light bulb moment where it's like,
right.
"Ooh, this does work," or could
Right,
work.
that's work, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I can appreciate that, and we actually missed something else that probably was pivotal too, and it was before we started recording. Why don't you tell your story about coming to America?
Ah, yes. So when I was working at the Motorola, Japan, which was a subsidiary company of the Motorola, I had the opportunity to go to US a lot, like attending some business meeting, some So I came to the US for many times to attend a conference or some business trips. So I kind of interested in coming to US, and then kind of like my idea came up to come to US to study MBA. So I came to get my MBA, but that was like a super challenging for me because of course I'm not native English speaker, so I have so many challenge. It's just a lot, but I'm glad I went through with it. So
What year was that?
I think it was like a 1994, something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Yeah, that
Okay.
long time ago. Like when there's not so many information that you can look up at the times. So I was actually calling MBA in US from Japan, like 1-800 something. And then of course you cannot call 1-800 from Japan. Like so I have to figure out how to get the regular telephone numbers and stuff like that. It was uh
You probably spent a
completely.
lot of money in phone calls, didn't you?
I did, and then send every application by mail. Everything was mail,
Yes. Those
no
were the days.
email. Those are the days.
I remember those actually in 94, I worked for the Department of Transportation as a consultant, but in our whole office of 10 people, I think we only had 4 computers and there was 10 people, I think. So I got one because I was the project manager, but I felt bad for the
Right,
people that didn't, you know?
right. Yeah. So those are the days. I'm pretty sure maybe like a test, like a TOEFL and everything, I have to do in person. But I think probably TOEFL and then those English tests, they probably can do online right now.
Yeah.
So time change and then it's so much easier, you know.
Right, right. Well, that's nice to hear the background on that, and so I really appreciate you coming on the show,
Okay,
and
thank you
so
so much, Jenny.
yeah, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
So I have the my company website, www.pumainvestment.coms, and then the also the my email address. Maybe I can put in a short note or something.
Yes, we'll put that
Yeah.
in the show notes, and we'll do the other too, but since there are some people that are maybe listening on only the auditory, I'm going to spell the website. It's Puma, Puma investments,
Uh,
investments.com.
there's
Right.
no S attended, just a singular, like a
Singular.
Puma
Okay,
investment.
investment.com. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been fun to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
You take care.
Thank you.